Welcome out to another episode of It's All Been Trekked Before. This time, the bonding. Yeah, it's kind of like me and Jimmy-Jerome and Keith. The bonding's been going on. We're going to keep it going. A way for you to keep it going. Patreon.com/IBD. Keep the bonding going. You can bond with us in a very platonic sense. Bond with us there. It's an easy way to become part of an ever-growing family and become even closer to us and get even more engaged with us. Patreon.com/IBD. And this, speaking of getting closer, is the bonding on It's All Been Trekked Before.
Welcome out to another episode of It's All Been Trekked Before. Your regular hosts are here.
This is Steven.
And the suitably frustrated Keith.
And Jimmy-Jerome. The audience doesn't know anything. Let's just all we need to say is this is being recorded the day after the first presidential debate. That's all you need to hear to get this frustration. We're here to talk an episode and hopefully take your mind off of, by the time this airs, we'll have President Biden, so it'll be fine.
That's right.
Oh, God. No, that's not an oh, God, I don't want him.
Right,
it's just,
right.
And oh, God, I'm tempting fate by stating that you'll have...
Right. Nothing ever seems like it. We can't make any statements to... All right, I'm sorry.
We're going to talk of the bonding. Yeah. No politics right now, in which a boy becomes an orphan on the Enterprise D, and the crew has to kind of take care of him. And also, there's some weird alien ghost thing.
It's a coming of orphan story.
First impressions.
I like this a lot. I really loved the first 15, 20 minutes. Then I was like, are they going to sustain this? Can they? And they couldn't. That said, I liked it a lot, though, overall. I thought it could have been really mawkish and everything, and I thought it wasn't. I thought it was pretty well done. I don't know that it won an Emmy or deserved any Emmys, but I thought it was a really good episode.
Yeah, I mean, it's the subject matter really wasn't in my wheelhouse, and once I realized where they were going, I was kind of dreading this. It's like the way that Steven was talking about the Steven Spielberg installment on the Twilight Zone movie. Is like as soon as you get that, you go, oh, okay, just let's go. And it really wasn't as bad as it should have been, given the subject matter. I mean, given how much time they were kind of spending ground in that area of orphanhood, I guess, loss, the cycle of loss, and I think they put it in a way that was useful, or could be useful to a lot of people. So I guess my point is, the performances were good, and it was entertaining enough that I wasn't miserable about it, even though I would have preferred some of other types of episodes, but they did this well.
Yeah, I liked it. I would not say I loved it. I wouldn't even say I really liked it. I think there was an interesting concept here that, as Steven said, wasn't sustained, and I thought there was some good stuff at the end too. Just really plotting middle.
That's exactly what I thought, because I thought, man, can we get to the end? And then the end had some good stuff too. Yeah. I'm just repeating what you just said. Ditto to what Jimmy just said.
That's fine. I'll take agreement.
Yeah. That's my exact thoughts. And as we get into it, yeah.
Well, what I would like to know then, more specifically, what was the part that you wanted to sustain at that early part? I'm not sure what the cutoff point was for you.
So I'll jump to this. One of my older episodes this is a bottle episode that just deals with loss and what a fact of life it is. Because every week we have these scenarios, and I've talked a lot about these are false constructs lots of times, as opposed to and I think you guys have made the point, which is, and Colleen too, the point that, well, they're on a starship in the middle of space. They're the starship, and they're going where no one has ever gone before. So it's likely they're going to lose people. That's going to happen. And so, they're always in that. We're always dealing with, oh man, this threat's going to get them. And then we don't really deal as much with the rest of it. And so we kind of got into that. I was more interested in the loss aspect, even more than the orphan part of it. But then I thought, so we had some really good, frank conversations between crew people and the kid. And then in my mind, I was like, okay, what's the conflict going to be here? And then the conflict showed up. I'm like, it's not doing much for me. And then it kept going, and then it kept going, and then it kept going. And I was like, why is this a conflict?
I
was just like, why? You seem like nice aliens. You feel bad about what happened. Then why are you furthering this thing? Just can we just have an episode dealing with grief? And that would have been, to me, that would have been great, and definitely a departure and very different for obviously that time. But that said, those first 15 minutes, I thought, after the opening credits, I thought had some great scenes and some revelations isn't the right word, but some nice, some really good moments where I didn't feel like it was like, okay, they didn't feel obligatory to me. Like, oh, we have to deal with these things. It was more of, okay, that's what this character really feels. And I think to your point, Keith, you alluded to that the performance is really good in those scenes. And I thought they got strained as the show went on to resolve that conflict. And even at the end, I thought that the last scene had some reaches, but it was still effective. I thought, like Jimmy said, I thought it was effective. So that was my thing. So I think I'm going to say after the first commercial break, when the Quinonians,
I think it's the second.
They're not involved with the Quanon people, are they?
No idea. But they do manufacture Quaaludes.
Oh, you mean QAnon?
QAnon, yeah.
I was like, wait, what? Wait.
Clearly, I never listened to anyone say it. I just read it all the time. Yeah, once they got really involved, my interest waned, and then it came back.
Yeah, I didn't care for the ghost mother thing.
See, I think it was the opposite up to a point. I mean, I was kind of like, okay, this is going on, and then when the ghost showed up, I was like, huh, now we're getting somewhere. Not that I would say that I loved everything that happened with it, but at least it was something to kind of.
Yeah, no, I liked the idea of exploring the people left behind and the ramifications of the red shirt death. So I was on board for that. I didn't like the weird thing that came in after.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it, the red shirt death. Yeah, because
that's my alternate episode. I would have loved to have seen the original series do this story.
We got into, one of the scenes was Riker and Data, and Data's like, well, you don't get this upset about everyone. You're more upset about people you know. And Riker's like, yeah, that's the deal. He's like, you and Tasha, that you felt that, right? And he's like, yeah. I mean, that's a very real thing. And I mean, it was something. I think Data was right. Like, we should feel bad when anyone dies, and I think we do, generally speaking. Generally speaking, I definitely have some. I have some noteworthy examples of not feeling bad, but generally speaking, you feel bad when someone passes. But
Data said we should feel equally bad.
That's right. Yeah,
I mean, I get from a logical perspective what he's saying, but from a human perspective, that does not make sense to me.
No, it's not, and I don't know if it's possible.
Riker gave a very diplomatic answer that kind of pulled that conversation to being maybe a little heavy-handed, but no less true, certainly, or no less. I mean, about how human history might have, or there would have been less bloodshed if this were actually a way that humans felt.
True. Very true.
Yeah, and I thought there were some great quotes in here. I feel like I wrote more quotes down last night watching this than, in fact, I have a ton of notes. I feel like half of them are just quotes, but some good and bad. So, like, I think it's Wesley asked Riker, he's like, how do you get used to this? And Riker said, you hope you never do. And I think that's
great. That was a great quote.
That was a great quote, because, we're so used to Riker being Mr. Braggadocio, and we're going to handle this. And I think that was another thing that made those scenes great. And my other alternate episode is, and you guys know I love Balance of Terror, is the end of that episode. I think it's one of the best moments in TOS is, Kirk comforting the widow and dealing with the ramifications. It's like, yeah, we won, but it's like, did we win? Because this is the price. Now, of course, that's undercut because the same actress is in Shore Leave 2 episodes later with another guy. But maybe not. Life goes on, which goes to my next quote, which is from Troy, who says, death and loss are an integral part of life. And I'm like, is this a Wrath of Khan callback we're getting into here? Because we got very Wrath of Khan territory, and how we deal with death is just as important as how we deal with life. But and there's nothing wrong with echoing Wrath of Khan. That's never a bad place to go.
Unless you're inviting the comparison and looking bad because of it. But this was not inviting the comparison. It was just echoing good themes. We kind of have jumped ahead quite a bit, but if we go back to the beginning, we start with Marla Astor, who is the ship's archaeologist. She's played by Susan Powell, Not a lot of credits here. This is what she's best known for, according to IMDb. She did 13 episodes of Dangerous Women in the early 90s. And, just she's still alive, according to IMDb, but just doesn't have that many acting credits here. Which
She's only on TV? God.
No, she's only got 19 credits. Honestly, it makes sense to me because I didn't think she was very good. But
wow.
Anyway,
What?
I didn't, but it might have been the character.
I kept thinking, wait, she was just dead, but that's right. She came back.
Yeah. So she dies, and Picard says, we lost a very valued member of the crew, which I guess the ship's archaeologist, it sounds like there's only one. It's not a whole department. That would be pretty important, especially to Picard, who is interested in archaeology. I would imagine he and Marla are at least cordial friends, acquaintances.
I feel like not only if you had a red shirt on the original series, but both series, if your title on the ship ends in some kind of ologist, you're a Walking Dead person. Your time is numbered.
I mean, Marla had a blue shirt, but you're absolutely right with the ologist thing. I mean, the closest thing we had to that in the original series, I guess, would be Marla McGivers, the ship's historian that hooked up with Khan.
Yeah,
I guess this fate's a little.
Both their names were Marla.
Yes.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I'm surprised you didn't point that out. That's.
I didn't think of it till you said it. Very interesting. It was probably an homage of some sort. But they start the episode mid-away mission, which I thought was interesting. Really jumped us into the action, but I guess that's because, the mission wasn't the point of it. And then blue shirt, Marla dies. And we get back to the bridge and yep, we're staying here to investigate that. I'm like, Kirk never stayed to investigate, or did that just we didn't see that happen?
I'm guessing we didn't see that happen unless he was down there when it happened.
Right.
Or
even then, not spending all his time down there investigating why the person died.
Right.
Well, in the context of this, I mean, this is a different kind of starship, certainly. I mean, the families and everything involved. I think that he probably felt more obligated anyway, but also curious. I mean, without a clear-cut explanation as to why, you would want to know if there needs to be more actions or precautions taken for future people coming that way, or if some sort of retribution or justice needs to be served. Was this an attack?
And I know I talk about the exposition at the beginning every week, and they kind of did that this week. I feel like they do the planet prep 5 minutes before they get in orbit. And like you said, in this instance, the team was already down there, and they're discussing the planet stuff. I feel like all that prep work should be done well in advance. I know it wouldn't help for the storytelling aspect, but it seems like they shouldn't be briefing them 5 minutes before they get on the transporter, or 10 minutes after they land and everything's cool down there. Hey, tell me a little bit more about this. That meeting should happen before. I'm just throwing that up.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like they go from planet to planet in an instant. They've got long periods of time, plenty of time.
They need to preface everything with, I know we talked about this a few weeks ago, but I just need a refresher real quick. Yeah. Let's just confirm with everybody that we're on the same page. Several weeks ago, we had this meeting in which we talked about what we're about to do.
Hey, I zoned out right in the middle. I think I missed a part. Can you go through this with me one more time?
Well, that's why I need to be a character on it, so I can provide that need for exposition.
Is it quinonians or quinonians?
Then we really dwell on the grief as we go from crew member to crew member. We see Worf with the candle and the knife, doing some type of ceremony. We see Wesley's face when he hears, and you totally get that he's flashing back to his own father's death before they say anything. It's immediate. And then I like that Troy brings up Wesley to comfort Picard, where Picard's like, is he ever going to be okay? And she's like, well, Wesley is. So I think that's a good example and a good use of your character's backstories.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I wrote uncut heaviness about telling Orphan, because I thought that's why I like that whole section so much. It was just, I didn't think it was over the top either. I just thought it was somber, which I think is hard to pull off.
One of the red flags for me, or something that made me think that I was going to be upset, not upset, but dislike the episode was, we're focusing on a child actor and a little kid and this whole thing. And the way that the kids are played in this is, especially for the subject of children who are brought up in an environment like this and are prepared for this eventuality, long before it happens. You get to see a different kind of take. They're not bawling, they're not clinging, they're not whiny, they're not lashing out wildly. They let you sit with the idea that this kid seems exceptionally mature and calm, much more so than most adults would be in most other kinds of shows, series, situations, real life. And it wasn't until Wesley brings it up at the end when he finally comes in, and there's a good use for him to talk about his experiences, piggyback off of each other. You get to pan over to the kid and see some of his reactions as he's talking about this, how this isn't what they're not showing you outwardly what they're feeling. In other words,
there's also a whole discussion of how they were prepared for it.
Yes,
like that they basically, it sounds like in school they have a class where they talk about what to do when your parents die, because it's a real possibility.
Yeah, and
so
even through it once.
It's not something the kids haven't thought about before it happens.
But I did like his initial reaction. It was very much like, yeah, I knew this day was going to come. He gets weird later, and again, he's a kid, so I guess they're allowed to. But I wrote smart kid, then dumb kid. And I guess that's in that middle section where we have to create this conflict or whatever. But I'm not going to fault him. I'm going to fault the writing for that. But anyway, sorry, Keith.
I've got two things about that since you bring that up. Well, first of all, the thing I was about to say was that he looked so familiar and I couldn't place him, and I actually had to look it up, and I was like, oh my God, right. RoboCop 2. He was
that is what he's best known for. I remember
villain.
Him from Newsies. And he's the voice of Littlefoot in The Land Before Time, the main character.
But
Gabriel Damon is the actor's name. He was big when when I was a kid, but then he retired and he's a real estate agent now. He doesn't act anymore.
But yeah, that was the only reason why he looked so familiar to me, because the thing that I had watched enough of to go, wait a minute, that creepy kid from that. So the situation that he's put into, and the other characters even remark on this. I wouldn't say that I process grief the way that most people would, or I don't seem to feel things in the same way when the subject of death comes up or whatever. But I mean, I think this translates to a lot of things, a lot of situations, that if there's something you lose that you want, especially right in that moment, if someone offers you a reversal of some sort, it would be hard for you to break out of that and say, no, this isn't real, go away. I think your desire for it to be true would be just as helpful in convincing you that it's real than it is, if that makes any sense.
Absolutely.
One of the odd things I thought of was Highlander, for example. So this little kid, his mother just shows up all of a sudden, and of course she's like, wait, what's going on? They said you were dead, and et cetera, et cetera. Uh-huh. By contrast to the Highlander death, if you, let's say that your spouse, you found out they were immortal in some way, you see their head get cut off and they just come back, what would it take for you to believe that they were actually them? I don't know. I think I'm going all over the place here. I'm trying to combine
what you're saying is, Keith, we need to have a phrase arranged so we will know that is
a secret phrase.
Something like that. I guess what I'm saying is those are two sides of the same coin, though. If there were some supernatural thing that would come up, I mean, we have one side. It seems pretty easy to believe, and the other side we have something that's pretty far-fetched to believe for the person and the reaction to it. Would you want to accept that? I think part of it is the kid didn't really see his mother's corpse or anything, right? I mean, they didn't really see her die. So I'm sure that goes a long way to going, this might be plausible.
Yeah. That makes sense.
God, I'm sorry. That was just so all over the place and incoherent. But I have this concept here, and I'm trying to get it across, but I don't know the link of that, or the continuum of those kinds of reactions or situations.
Mm-hmm. Well, my next note, going chronologically, is that conversation with Riker and Data, and Riker's upset Marla's dead, and he's talking about Tasha, and the only thing I could think of in that scene was Riker totally slept with Marla, didn't he?
Yeah, I wrote that down. We spent some time together.
Yeah,
that's great. And
I missed it.
Riker comforts all the widows on board. He does. As well as the single ladies and the married women. He comforts
It made me think of when the Rolling Stones were on the Ed Sullivan Show. They couldn't say, let's spend the night together. They had to sing, let's spend some time together. So I think it's an allusion to that as well.
Probably.
It's weird because I didn't catch that, but something about Deanna saying that it was her responsibility to bring the people joy.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I wrote, okay. So wait, I got notes
for
there
Worf
too.
Even,
Yeah, Troy tries to help bring them back to a state of joy, and I wrote down, she sleeps with them, doesn't she? I mean, that now I'm getting what Riker and Troy see in each other, because they're both big horn dogs and sleep with everybody. Although I also thought Picard probably slept with her too, based on the archaeology connection and everything.
Huh.
I think Marla just gets around, is what I'm saying.
Well, while we're on
No
subject,
shame in that. You
hey.
go for it, girl. You get it.
Yeah.
While we're on that subject, it's funny because I had this whole. I mean, when I saw the 2 titles of the episodes, how they might be thematically linked. Both, neither are about what you might think they might be. The bonding and a booby trap. But anyway,
the second one's about Troy's counseling sessions, right? The booby trap.
However, there is archaeology involved in both to a sense, and it's almost like losing the archaeologist made a plausible reason for Picard to sort of take over that role or spearhead exploration.
Yeah, that's a good point. Although, had this episode not happened, we probably still wouldn't have had an archaeologist in that episode. But I like the way you think. Troy gives Worf a counseling session, which I quite enjoyed because, again, I like that we're getting to see her counsel now. I didn't know.
She
seems to have a purpose.
Sorry, I didn't know what you were going to say after. Or give.
No, in the early.
Gives Worf and I was like.
In the first season, she really didn't have much purpose, and I know the actress has talked about that too. And we're really seeing what she brings to the table now. And even Worf listens to her, which is great. That's tough Klingon puts some value in the counseling thing, and I love where she's like, it may happen again, and he's basically saying, but Picard, keeps going. He's fine, and I like that she points out that Picard comes to me, even though that seems like totally against doctor-patient confidentiality. And she also talks about how the boy's doing to Worf, and I'm like, Troy just does not keep any professional secrets, does she? She just blabs about whatever.
Giant gossip.
Well, I mean, the Betazoids all know each other's business anyway, so she's probably used to that being a thing.
That's true.
Well, you have to wonder what the doctor-patient confidentiality rules are in a situation like that, and it seems like she uses fairly good judgment about how much to reveal and when.
But a modern psychologist at most could probably talk to Picard about how the boy is doing, or a guardian, not anybody else, not just anybody on the crew. And she certainly should be talking to Worf about what his captain does in counseling.
That's a good point.
Though in Starfleet, clearly the stigma of seeking out a mental health professional is going away or gone away.
Right.
And they embrace that, which is such a healthy step forward.
Yeah. Well, it helps to have a bunch of beta-zeds on your beta-zoids.
Or half beta-zed.
Half beta-zed.
Yeah. Sorry, I was just going to say, I mean, it's the nature of what she gave away, though, was just the fact that he was a patient or that he did make use of the services. And
that at least could kind of do. Right. Well, sorry, I'm equating it to the legal sense.
Well, yeah, exactly. I'm saying it doesn't seem like she was breaking those kinds of rules anyway, and it was in service of Worf's ego to the sense of, extent of, I mean, he brought up specifically, he implied that Picard wouldn't ever show that type of weakness in talking to her or needing anyone to talk to.
Mm-hmm. And it seems like she has a lot of reign. It seems like her mandate is as long as it helps the ship run properly, which is a very broad mandate, but she's used it a few times, and I think it makes sense. And the Crusher and McCoy do the same thing. It's like, my thing is to make sure everyone on the ship is healthy.
I mean, has that come up officially, or they use that?
I know. I was just rewatching. Oh, it was Core My Maneuver. McCoy was giving Kirk crap about giving the young ensign crap, and he's like, "Hey, I can do this. I'm the doctor, and part of my thing is you're cranky. You need rest, and that's affecting the way you're running the ship, and that could affect other people making decisions and stuff." So again, a very broad mandate, but mandate's not the right word, but a very broad sphere, very scope. Scope is what I'm looking for. Yeah. So we talked about Data and Riker talking, and I think when he says the part about the thing we were talking about where people they're more affected by losses that are closer to them, he says human history would be a lot less bloody if everyone's death hit us the same way. And I was like, yeah, that makes sense, because we just did the Kevin episode not too long ago. What was that 2 weeks ago? Last week?
Oh, the
Sprite.
Kevin the God.
Yeah, because
Uxbridge.
Yeah, he was fine with 10,000 strangers dying, but then once the one close to him died, he's like, all right, I'm killing 58 million people or whatever it was.
Yeah.
So that seems fair.
he had a very recent example to point to. And then I didn't write down this one exactly either, but Riker said something along the lines of, you wouldn't want to be it's the last victims of a senseless war. That's what he said. And I think because he was that killed Astor. And that's very close to what John Kerry said when he testified before Congress in the early 70s about, I'd hate for the last person, and I'm paraphrasing now, the last person killed before in a senseless war or whatever, essentially, which was very powerful, even after the Swift boats, a-holes did their thing. Now we're getting political again. But anyway, it was very similar to what John Kerry said, and I thought it was very on the money.
Going back to Deanna for a second, one of the notes that I made.
I have more Deanna notes too.
It was just a very simple thing. It just in relation to what I was saying about, like, I wouldn't have chosen this type of episode, but obviously, as Jimmy was saying, it was a good episode to showcase what she can do and how. So I thought that was one of the pleasant aspects of dealing with something like this.
While we're talking about her, I think this is the second or third week, 2 out of the last 3 weeks, she, in probably several weeks, she can sense things down on the planet. What is her range? Is what I wonder. Like,
it varies.
Yeah. Like
it does. Well, it does, because the stronger the emotion, the further it carries. She also gets interference from other people having stronger emotions around her. When the crew's like calm and peaceful, she can sense further than when they're agitated. They've made that point. So I think it's not necessarily exact science. It's more like she's an antenna, and a lot of things can interfere with an antenna or boost an antenna.
That makes sense.
And also,
I was wondering
links.
if she, like, if a planet got blown up, if she would hear
like the planet Oregon.
I was going
Organia
or Alderaan,
whatever.
Like, she would hear tons of voices screaming out, and then suddenly silence. So,
well, we did.
I was going to make that reference earlier.
She was only half a Beta Z, but if you remember in the book Imazadi, her mother was a full Beta Z. When Deanna was killed, her mother woke up screaming and didn't stop for 3 days or something like that.
Do they feel that way about everyone, or only those that are close to?
Only those that are close. Can you imagine if they felt that way about everyone? Like, Santa would never stop screaming.
I can't sleep.
Mr. Hom would just put cotton in his ears.
But they've made that point before too, that there is the link with Riker, which would enable her to sense him from longer distances.
Speaking of which, slight departure, since you mentioned Mr. Hom, we're watching Twin Peaks. He's in that. Isn't that he the guy in that? Isn't he the weird? Okay, don't tell me anything more, because we're not done yet. But okay, back to Trek. Sorry.
I've got a couple more notes while we're on the subject. I like that they talked about brave being not good. Like, don't be brave with your feelings. Let's talk about them. That goes into the mental health we talked about. And going into Troy being unprofessional, why did she go ask Beverly to have Wesley talk to Jeremy instead of going and talking to Wesley directly?
Parental consent.
Wesley's a serving officer on the ship.
Yeah.
She doesn't need to go through her mother for that, right? I mean, I think Wesley's still 17 at this point, but it's like, no, he's a full member of the crew. They treat him like that. This was not that. It felt weird to me.
Perhaps.
Speaking of Troy and Wes, I'm going to say Wes, because maybe she did this before. She called him Wes
instead of Wes.
Yeah, maybe we talked about this before. And maybe it's her.
I've never noticed that.
It's her accent.
Yeah, I'm going to guess it is. I had a football coach that would call me Was instead of Woos. So it made me think that.
I have a sister whose name is Melissa, and when she was little, I decided, because we were trying to figure out, well, there's no really good nickname for Melissa, so I said, I'm going to call her Liz, because that's part of Melissa.
Sure.
My entire family picked it up as Liz, and to this day, they all call her Liz, which drives me absolutely insane.
Wow.
I still call her Liz. Liz, but she's not Elizabeth. Anyway.
On the subject of Wes, I thought his reaction was very authentic, or it felt authentic to me, when his mother brought it up to him. That kind of like, do I have to do that? I mean, I can imagine being in that situation. I guess my point is, it felt real without being annoying. It didn't make him look like he was being a teenage jerk or something like that. It wasn't too abrasive. It was just, this is how a real person would react if you asked him to do something like that. I'd be like, man, am I really the right person to do that?
Yeah.
What am I going to do?
Yeah. Well, and just he doesn't necessarily like reliving those memories, and he's been forced to a few times in this series. And yeah, it makes total sense. The most unrealistic part of this episode, I thought, was Jeremy Astor is 12 years old. He just became an orphan, and he's alone in his quarters when the ghost shows up. You can't tell me that they're going to leave this 12-year-old all by himself in his quarters at this point.
I thought he looked younger than 12 too, but
they mentioned he was 12. Huh. I thought it was totally plausible he was 12. There'd be somebody there, whether it's Troy or a teacher or some mentor, or I'm sure there's some child services officer on the ship that can help with that kind of thing.
I would imagine it's a Home Alone situation where whoever was supposed to handle it was like, I thought you had this. No, I thought you had it. So he's in his quarters by himself? Yeah. It doesn't make sense.
You don't leave a 12-year-old in that situation by themselves.
With the door unlocked, because it's the Enterprise.
Well, yeah.
But I mean,
the ghost mom could have walked through the door.
Would they have him on like a suicide watch or something? I mean, like what they can't like watch him like 24 hours a day. I mean,
I think you would at this point for at least a temporary time. I mean, yes, a 12-year-old can be left in their quarters by themselves from time to time. It's not like his mom has to be with him all the time. But when his mom just dies, you're going to provide some type of assistance for him. I mean, maybe they'd leave him alone when he sleeps if he wanted to be. Right. Maybe. But they're not just going to leave him there. But somebody's going to sit with him. No,
think about the enforcement of something like that. I mean, what if that made the problem worse for him? I mean, you're saying it's almost like a punishment, saying that we cannot leave you unattended at all.
No, during this entire. I'm not saying it's a punishment. I think they'd want to just make sure he's okay, though.
Well, yeah, but I mean, how do you accomplish that without smothering him?
I don't know.
That's a question of parenthood.
Yeah, and I'm not saying they have to be right on the couch next to him, but there's somebody in the room.
They have to be giving a shoulder massage the entire time.
Keith, my parents were around all the time. I never felt smothered. I can assure you.
What's that?
My parents were around all the time, and I never felt smothered. I can assure you of that.
So Ghost Mommy shows up, and she makes their house on Earth, and there was a cat there, so immediately like, okay, I'm staying.
Yep.
It was a cute cat.
Yeah. I wasn't sure at first what Ghost Mommy was. I mean, I knew it was her, obviously, in some form. Mm-hmm. And I thought it was the aliens doing it, which made me think of motion picture when V'ger shows up in the Ilea form. Mm-hmm. So I thought maybe that was what was going on. And then I started thinking, is it a man trap callback from TOS? And then we've got a shapeshifter who's actually just there for to eat kids' brains or salt or whatever.
Sure.
They have that conversation, and Crusher's like, so his mom's there, and da-da-da-da-da-da. What would you choose? You could have this, or you could have the life you had. What would you choose? And I thought that was very Crusher speaking McCoy style, which I liked it. It was very much like, well, think about it. What would you do? What would you choose? And I really like that. Anyway,
that's what I was trying to get across earlier when I was going all over the place with Highlander and so on. It's just like, I don't know. I think under the circumstances, with him not having seen her die firsthand,
yeah,
and being presented with this option, it doesn't seem like it would be something he could just say, no, this is impossible, go away.
And and my next quote actually supports what you're saying, Keith, because she says this line, and this is very manipulative, and it's something a ghost mom or a real parent or anybody being manipulative might say, which is, we will not let them separate us again. And that's very, I mean, that's, if you're trying to do the right thing, Quinonians, that's not cool.
No.
That is not cool. That is so manipulative.
I'm up to my notes to the scene where Picard and everybody comes in with the ghost mommy. I kind of stopped taking notes at one point because I was just like, whatever. Picard goes in and he starts poking holes in the ghost mommy's plan, and it's like these energy beings had not thought this through at all. Like, they're talking about, what's he gonna do for friends? Is he gonna fall in love? What's he gonna do for a career? And you're just like, and they have no answers. They have no response. It's like, why would you jump into that without thinking about it?
Well, I mean, they're in a sense prejudiced against physical beings. I mean, they kind of have them in that little box. They have been too far separated or elevated above them for too long. So it was just like this, who needs those things?
I thought the early arguments those guys made were very TOS Kirk kind of things. Whenever they were like talking to the gods or whatever, you don't feel, it's not human, and they're like, you have to feel joy and pain, which I rewound just to make sure I heard it right, because all I could hear was joy and pain. Keep it going now. And sunshine. And I'm not going to say another word because then we'll owe them money. But, but then, you just kind of alluded to this, Jimmy. They're like, what if he wants a career, a wife? I'm like, is that happiness? Is it? I mean, I know for us, wives, yeah, that's a big part of our happiness. And I you know what? Our careers are too. So I guess, you know what? I just answered my own question.
Speak for yourself.
Well, no, I think that's
one of my careers.
I think that he was giving a good example of what it means to be fulfilled in some way or have a goal of some sort. Not necessarily a 9-to-5 job, but some path of purpose.
Well, it goes back to the cage in Captain Pike. And is he going to be happy living a lie rather than having a real life where he could grow?
Right. And I think the last line, and I don't know if it's Picard or someone else, this situation is something to cherish, not live in. And I think that one's a good sell. That's a great line. Best sell to me.
Yeah.
And then after that, I can't remember who says they now only live in here or whatever. I think in your heart, your head. Worf, yeah, which made me think
of the point in here.
That's what it was. Yeah, which made me think of the last line of the Road Warrior, which was, he now only lives in our memories. So I enjoyed. And then Worf said the title.
Yeah.
Yes,
he did. Yeah, I liked Worf in this episode. I liked Wesley a lot in this episode. Him speaking at the end to Jeremy and talking about being angry at Picard was extremely moving and relatable.
Yeah. Thought it was great.
And then the alien just leaves without any additional words. Once the alien sees Jeremy's taken care of, Ghost Mommy crosses over into the light and it's gone.
I liked that actually.
Her entrances and exits were great. It was like blink, 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 blink.
Yeah. I mean, she came in without thinking it through, and then she's just kind of like, okay, okay, bye. Yeah, I'm not going to discuss it.
I got the hint.
Yeah. He's taking care. Well, so looking at it just from the point of view of the energy being, the purpose of recreating the mother and coming on the ship was to take care of Jeremy. Right. And once they saw Jeremy was taken care of, then their responsibility is over.
That makes sense.
So that made sense that they chose then to leave.
Yeah.
That was my final note. Well, I have other notes to say, but chronologically, my last note. I mean, I liked the way that they managed to resolve that in a unique fashion, or what feels like a unique way. This is the sort of thing that would usually bother Steven about the godlike creatures. In fact, this is something where they didn't have to resort to bargaining or trickery. They didn't have to like force their way out somehow or like escape. It was just they thought it through, and they were, it wouldn't do any good to try to restrain him. Try to bully this energy being. It's just, look, here are the facts. Think about this. What
you're saying is they had an adult conversation.
Yes. Yeah. That's amazing.
Exchange views and everything. And,
I think that's an important thing to be able to display, for people
just like our government is now functioning at the time of the episode will air, not at the time we record it.
Oh, no. You're
I'm
just
tempting
doing
fate again. I'm tempting fate. So they had that nice ceremony with Worf and Jeremy. But my last note, in terms of the chronology, they're asking a lot of Jeremy in this episode. They're asking him to be mature. They're asking him to reason things through in an adult way, not as a kid would, but as a fully grown individual would. And he rises to the occasion. And that made me wonder, like, is that how kids are in the 24th century? Have we evolved as a species that much, or is this a very special kid?
I think he's a special kid. And again, maybe his father dying earlier made him ready for this kind of
that makes
world
sense
and
too.
Life. Do they mention, like, are they taking him to his aunt and uncle or anything?
Yeah, his Uncle Henry and Aunt Em in Kansas, where he's going to be raised. On the farm.
Is that
no?
Oh my God! I just
an aunt and uncle. Yes, they're taking him to his aunt and uncle.
Well, all right. At the beginning, when Worf and the crew, the away team were beamed up, this is the first time I really thought about how they were holding that pose until they materialized. And I wondered about like how that translates to people who are moving while they're being beamed. Does it actually make them freeze until they're? I mean,
No.
how to get them to stop? So that represents what the computer probably read of them at that snapshot, and they can't move until they're fully materialized.
I think we've seen people move like run into a beam and then keep moving in more modern Trek. I think at this point they still didn't have the budget to actually show somebody moving through the beam.
Makes sense.
I think it was purely practical logistics.
Right,
so you could argue from a science perspective, I think you've got a perfectly reasonable explanation there, science-wise.
Yeah. So Picard, when he's on the turbolift, just said halt and resume without addressing the computer or the turbolift or anything. So it's interesting. It's not he didn't even really like change inflection that much. It was just sort of conversationally halt. And the turbolift understood.
So when Troy's on the turbolift and she's like, I was watching this old Netflix show called Halt and Catch Fire, and the turbolift just stopped. Like, wait,
caught on fire. I had a similar question. So at one point, Picard's like out, and he didn't touch his communicator. So is out, does that end every conversation?
It's the same principle that the automatic doors on the Enterprise open when you want them to, but you can stand right in front of them where you don't want them to, and they don't open.
I've never caught that before.
Oh, now that I've said it, Keith, you're going to see it so much.
Yeah,
you're going to see it so much. It's those practical things they don't always think through. It's for story, dramatic purposes. Yeah, they're not consistent about how the technology works. Sorry, Keith. I've ruined Star Trek for Keith now. Every episode now, he's going to talk about it.
So, you brought up Kirk, and that would have been a good segue back then. But I wrote, "What does God need with a transporter?" Actually, that reminds me of something I didn't write, which was I don't think I realized before that there were multiple transporter rooms.
Yeah.
And that would go along with explaining why O'Brien wouldn't be at a given terminal.
Well, also O'Brien doesn't work 24/7. Nobody's on duty all the time.
There's that too, but the subject comes up occasionally. You would say, why wouldn't he be there to do something more complex like this? Maybe that was just the closest one or something. I don't know.
Yeah. My last note is fashion.
Fashion.
I don't have any comments about the Ghost Mommy. I think she dressed very 80s sci-fi or early 90s. But I did finally notice, I've been trying to watch for the last couple episodes, and I can confirm as the season starts, Worf is now a full lieutenant. He's no longer lieutenant junior grade. He has the 2 solid pips. So he got promoted between seasons 2 and 3, just like Geordi did between 1 and 2, and there's no mention.
Huh. It was in a ceremony that was done off stage or off camera, or whatever.
Well, there's plenty of stories of Star Trek actors that have been negotiations for salary increases over the years, and the production will offer their character a rank increase as if that's something that could take the place of money. And the actors, whenever they talk about it, are always like, "Yeah, you're promoting my character. Doesn't do anything."
Oh my God! It probably happened like right before the briefing for this away mission.
No, I'm pretty sure it happened between seasons, but I don't know.
Staying on fashion, I thought young Astor, and maybe this points to his maturity, I thought he was a sharp-dressed young man.
Nice hair.
Yeah, in his ZZ Top. Yeah, nice hair. I'd liked his little vest combo there. Very nice. My last note on fashion is Troy's uniforms. I feel like, and we've talked about, she's like, yeah, I got in shape for season 3. I feel like her uniforms are getting tighter, and I feel like that's making her uncomfortable, had to make her uncomfortable, and it's starting to make me feel uncomfortable. So
Did you say that she confirmed that at some point?
She just confirmed that the reason we see so many more outfits and everything and different is, she said, yeah, seasons 1 and 2, I was fat, and then I lost weight. And so they're like, yeah, they could, she was like, yeah, so they could put me more things. And she was like, and I was all for it. I was like, yeah, let's do it. I look good. So
she was not fat in seasons 1 and 2.
Oh God, no. She said, yeah, and actually, I think she said fat. She might have just said heavy, but she said something along those lines, and it was like, Michael Dorn looked at her in the interview I was watching. It was just like, right. We all know she was not fat by any means.
No, but you can't help but find your own flaws more than anybody else.
Absolutely,
does, so.
And hey, she got in shape, good for her, or got in better shape, whatever. TV ads, way too much pounds. You guys know, you've seen my pizza commercial.
It doesn't help if they put a pizza in front of you.
That's right.
That doesn't make you look skinnier.
I don't care what the crust is made of. Didn't the alien force move through the ship look just like the one in The Child from last season? Yeah,
I put down Ghostbusters for that. That was one of my.
That was my other thought, especially with the music that was going on.
Yeah.
That was my last note.
I have one more after that.
Go for it.
Which was when Wesley. I love it when he first walked into the Astor quarters. You know, they finally brought him in there, and he kind of did this little like, and then didn't say anything. I was like, I would have loved if he said, you know, love what you've done with the place. I get drop one of those.
Yeah, that would be good.
Anyway, sorry. Yeah.
No.
a perfect joke to end on.
This episode was directed by Winrich Colby. This was his or her, I don't know, 5th episode directing. That common director does a lot of episodes and will do the series finale. So good for Winrich. The first episode written by Ronald D. Moore, who is probably one of the most famous names in Star Trek of this era. So it's exciting that we got to his first written by. Ron D. Moore will go on to write a whole bunch of The Next Generation, including Sarek, Menage a Troi, the 2-part Best of Both Worlds, the series finale, All Good Things, Star Trek Generations, Star Trek First Contact. He was then a executive producer and showrunner for Deep Space Nine. After Star Trek, he went on to create the new Battlestar Galactica, and now he makes Outlander for Stars. So very prolific, very talented man with so many credits. But this was the first episode he wrote for Star Trek of, let's see, just Next Generation. He's got 13 written by and 13 teleplay by credits.
Well, I had not heard of him.
Story editor.
I have to confess, but I'm already a huge fan if he's the one who titled Menage a Troi. So,
I mean, he probably did. He's a funny guy. But the fact that he wrote First Contact and All Good Things and Best of Both Worlds should tell you right now you're dealing with a pro. Anyway, let's get to the rankings then. Scale of 1 to 10. How annoyed were you with Wesley this week?
I gave him a 1.
Oh, God, it's hard to tell. No higher than 2, certainly. I'm just trying to figure out if there's something.
I'm giving him a 1 as well. I liked the use of him.
Yeah, I mean, I wish he would have said the line, but other than that, even though it would have been completely inappropriate.
You can't take the point off for that, Keith. Or add the point.
Yeah,
Who was your annoyance this week?
The Quinonian. Ghost Mom.
Ghost Mommy?
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I'm calling her. I don't know what else
Ghost
to call
Mommy.
her, but I agree with you. She was my annoyance as well. Keith?
That was it. I mean, I thought Worf for him just briefly.
Sure, I can see that.
I was being a little pushy about some of the stuff, but other than that, I think it would have to be the Ghost Mom.
Is Ghost Mommy also your crush of the week?
No, I think no.
You gonna stick with Ardrian, Keith?
Yes, who I still can't remember right now.
Okay. Steven, you chose Crusher's assistant last week.
I am going with Patches, the cat.
Oh, good choice.
Yeah.
Good choice.
Yeah. I was like, I'm pretty sure it's going to be Patches. And yeah, I was similarly unimpressed with Ghost Mommy as you were. So.
Yeah, I'm tempted to change, but I feel like that's not fair to steal your thunder. It's such a good pick, and I had not thought of it. I'm just going to stay with Nuria from last week.
Sure.
Ranking the episode, where do we want to put it? There's only 4 to choose from. Let's start with Who Watches the Watchers, which is at our top right now. Better or worse than Who Watches the Watchers?
I go below.
Okay, got it. It was like
I go below too.
Early on, I was like, this episode's gonna, and then with the aforementioned middle dip.
Yeah, right below that which is probably where I should have started, is The Survivors, the Uxbridges.
I think I'm gonna go below that too. Although they both have similar.
Just because the uneveness of this episode.
Yeah.
They do.
The what of this?
So this breaks our trend of each subsequent episode gets better this season. Right below that is The Ensigns of Command.
Man.
I'm still going below, honestly. I wasn't that thrilled with this episode.
Interesting.
Despite some good moments.
Yeah,
It just didn't stand out to me.
That's where I'm struggling. Because the moments I liked, I loved. But that middle section.
Well, the bottom right now is Evolution, the season premiere, which was the one with Dr. Kelso from Scrubs, and his experiment was messed up, and I would go above that.
Yeah, I could go either below or above the Instance of Command.
Keith, are you inclined to go above or below?
Feeling them below Ensigns. Wait, which one was the Kelso one? I think
that's Evolution.
Yeah, probably above that.
Yeah, That's where I had it as well. So this is the next to the bottom. It's ranked 4th out of 5.
Yep.
Which is
again, I liked it a lot, so I think that speaks to.
I would not say I liked it a lot.
Yeah.
I would say I liked it though. I don't think
You're right.
this season hasn't had any bad episodes, but I wouldn't say I like it a lot.
Yeah, you know what? You're right. Again, like you said, the parts I liked a lot. The more we talked, the more that middle part. I was reminded.
As we were talking, I thought Jimmy liked it more than I did, really. But
yeah. Huh.
But you sound like you like it. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
There were some really good moments. They're just like I said. I didn't take notes for a while because I was just like, eh.
Yeah.
I didn't like Ghost Mommy. I really didn't like Ghost Mommy, and that was the big. Next week, we're gonna watch Booby Trap. The Enterprise triggers an ancient yet effective trap left by an extinct race, with a perfectly preserved derelict ship serving as cheese for Picard. Until then, we're gonna live long,
and if we don't, we will deal with it appropriately. With our
that's pretty good.
With our Ghost Mommy,
and we will prosper.
It'll be unreal.
It's All Been Done presents
Who's Got the Time?
Next week, we're going to watch Booby Trap, where Deanna Troi is brassiered. No, I'm kidding. That was inappropriate. Forgive me.
Jimmy, cut the brassiere.